Abani Ghani, everyone. This is Professor Rahh, Professor Emeritus, California State University at Long Beach, now Africana Studies, but when I was there, it was Black Studies, along with my co-host, Brother Joe, historian Joe Hembrick, and longtime educator for Compton Unified and Linwood Unified, the first head Black coach for Linwood Unified, and a historian in regards to his studies on how people in ancient classical civilizations, as well as their ancient spirituality. And we're going to also recognize Brother Rahh.
Rasaki Maskani.
Rasaki Maskani, and for providing us this platform to bring you this powerful presentation from the presenter tonight, which I'll introduce later. We're going to welcome Brother Mashinda out of Louisiana and Nia Crenshaw, as well as the good doctor from, I think, the Inland Empire. We're going to get started, because we need to get all of it. And plus, some questions are going to come up about his latest writings, The Conspiracy of Silence. But we're also going to focus on the challenges, the effects of the projected effects of the possibilities of artificial intelligence, AI, that everyone is talking about, and get the guest's unique presentation. His name is Asar Jubal, formerly Asar Jerry Jubal. He's a historian, he's an artist, and he's been living in Cuba for over 20-something years, as well as he's been to Japan, he's been to Africa, and he's a deep thinker, deep thinker. By his first books that he had written, Black Revelations, as well as Black Truth, along with The Conspiracy of Silence. His name is Asar Jubal. Not only is he a scholar and an author and a thinker, an excellent father, and just a beautiful spirit, he's one of my best friends. And I have awesome respect for his knowledge, his wisdom, and he's somewhat of a mentor to me with regards to sharing his deep thoughts and making me a better person. So without further delay, he's also a friend to my family also, my wife and kids, they all know him. All right, so we're gonna let Jubal give a presentation, and then y'all can start asking questions. He can start where he wants to start. Go ahead, Jubal.
All right, Habari, everybody. It's good to be back again. I get up here in the U.S. every month and a half or so. But I'll be following you even when I'm out of the country. So, but before we get into this AI thing, I just wanted to mention that, tell a little story. When I started at Long Beach State, that was in 1977, 78, I believe. And when I went in as an art major. And basically I went there because I wanted to use the GI Bill, which the government would pay for the whole thing. And I needed it at the time because, 3 kids and you all been there, so you know. But anyway, that's why I originally went there, and I took art because I kind of dabbled in some painting, drawing, and stuff. But after maybe a year and a half, a semester and a half, or maybe almost 2 semesters, I hadn't learned a thing. I mean, I just didn't learn anything. I didn't feel that I had learned anything. And then as part of the requirements for getting a bachelor's degree in fine arts, you have to take primitive arts. I believe that was the name of the class. It was a required course. So I decided, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to take one in Black studies because that's where the first people came from. And so I took, I don't remember the name of the class exactly, but that class was being taught by uh, a brother that turned out to be a good friend of myself, and I'm with Ra and maybe some others of you. That was Vernell de Silva. And I just want to mention the importance of Vernell uh, because he passed away just a month ago, a little more than a month ago. And um, when I first took his class, it was the first art class I had taken where I felt like I was learning something. Yeah. All them other classes, I didn't learn anything. But from Vernell, wow, what a difference. And then I was so impressed by that when I went back to the art department and said, look, why can't this class fulfill the requirements for the primitive art class that I need to get my degree? And they said, well, no, it's a Black Studies class. It doesn't count for, the general studies class, or however they term it. So I said, well, I insist that you do it. I petitioned them, filled out a formal request for this. So they said, well, in order to consider it, we have to have the professor, the teacher, come and we can interview him and see what's what. So I went back and told Vernell, and then he definitely wanted his class recognized campus wide for any course. And so we said, well, they're going to interview me. I know they're going to ask me about Greeks and Romans. So he started, in preparation for this interview, started researching ancient Greek and Roman art. And in the process, he ran into this book, I think it was published in France. Big book, big thick book, beautiful color, and the quality was very good. And he found it up in the archives in the university. And in that book were statues and coins and architecture from ancient Greece, but it was all contained Africans or had been produced by Africans in Greece going back, 2,500 years ago, thereabouts. So we were like shocked because there was so much of it. And I said, wow, they're hiding all of this. And both of us were shocked. So uh, because of that, I said, man, if they're hiding all of this, what else are they hiding? So I changed my major from fine art to history, ancient history. And when I got into the history department, then I got into fights with the different history professors, especially those who are ancient Greek and Roman history. And it got so heated that, they tried to kick me out off the campus even just for trying to keep them straight about what they were teaching and what they were leaving out and trying to add that into the mix. But my point in bringing that up is because it was Vernell de Silva, whom, just as I said, just recently passed, whom started me down the road. And after that, well, I met Rod, then I met Karenga later on. And oh man, it exploded, blossomed from that point on. But I just wanted to make the point to say that in my heart, I'll miss Vernell de Silva. He's always been the one person that started me on this search for who we are, where we came from, and what the truth is about history. And in the process of doing that, discovering where these other people came from and what their process has done historically. And I learned that they've been on this earth for about 3,500 years, and that they were originally African, or at least people of color from Africa, and had become mutated during an episode, geological episode, whereby a comet or meteor or whatever, a shower of them, hit the earth, collided with the earth, and caused turmoil all around the earth. But in the peninsula we call Europe today, it froze and people were unable to travel, to commune between villages. It was frozen almost year round. And as a result, they had to employ only hunting and whatever gathering they could do to keep warm, and very little farming. And they became nomadic peoples. And plus they were forced to inbreed, and then that inbreeding in turn led to the loss of melanin. And not only is that, visible, it went deeper than the changing in hair color, eye color, skin color, but it also affected their mind and mentality. And when it thawed out enough in Europe after decades to where they could all come out, then they started intermarrying, but they were all albinos. And basically, that's where they came from. So the languages they spoke then had originally been African, and they can still be traced back to Africa to show that that's exactly what happened. They don't want to talk about these things, but hey, that's why I'm here. That's why others of us who do this kind of research, that's what it's all about. So we can determine that it not only affected them physically, but it affected them psychologically, mentally, all kinds of ways by uh, calcifying partially or fully the pineal gland, which is uh, the entrance, the passage between um, this world, this physical world, and the other world, which is non-physical, uh, what we call a menta, which is really the mind, which houses at all times the personality of the individual. I think I might have mentioned that before. And if not, it's worth noting. A child is born and they're a physical entity. They bring the traits and genes and DNA of their parents and grandparents on back. But the personality is unique to each individual. And that personality is who we are. We have that personality during this whole physical life. And once we die, our body stays here, every hair on it, every part of it stays here on this earth. And the personality goes on into that other side called a menta. And our ancient forebears were able to communicate um, during life with the other side. And from that, learn how to heal and how to make predictions and etc. Things like that. And by combining that with the study of nature and how it works, how the rain affects the ground and how the sun affects the the plants and the animals and etc., etc. All of that, they mastered it and were able to use the combined Amenta knowledge from Amenta plus the knowledge of nature here on earth to heal. Imagine uh, 4,000 years and we didn't have hospitals. you know there was no ambulances. The healing, if you got sick at all, was done right in the village by people who were trained from childhood to apply the knowledge of the herbs, nature of a menta, the healing aspect. And they by the time of Egypt, before Egypt fell some 3,500 years ago, they had gathered in colonies. Even after Egypt fell, they remained in colonies that were the Europeans called the Essenes, were a group of healers, doctors who addressed any problem to anyone without charge. Uh, their purpose in life was to heal and uh, was health, bring health to our people. So that is the kind of thinking, scientific thinking that we employed until the mutations came. Then everything changed. They suffer from an inferiority complex, and they feel that in order to overcome that, they have to project themselves as being superior, not only to people of color, all people of color, but superior to to the point of dominating the entire world. They even feel like they are superior to nature. And so their whole science has been toward usurping nature and trying to one up nature and make things better. So this has really accelerated in the last 500 years when they came out of Europe and started going around the world, and then began eventually colonizing the whole world and bringing, forcefully bringing, violently bringing their own uh, science and thinking and forcing it on the people wherever they went, whether it's in Americas or Africa, or whatever. We know that uh, some 45, excuse me, million Native Americans were exterminated within 100 years of Columbus landing on these shores, you know. So these are the kind of things that the thinking that came about. Then about 200 years ago, they began what they called the Industrial Revolution. You know, that's when they uh, discovered oil and coal, started burning them and fusing ores together and producing metals and gunpowder, etc. Those kind of things. And every time they made some major so-called advancement in the physical science, in fact, they call their science physics, it was always for the betterment of humanity. That's how they sold it. You know, this will make things easier. You know, now we got a, a steam engine. So we don't have to trek for 2 and 3.5 months or however long it takes to cross the country. We can put it in this iron machine and make a rail line and then send it across in a couple of weeks and on and on. And selling people constantly on the idea that physics was improving the quality of life, that it was always better for you. When my father was a child, he was born in 1905, and a few years after that, then well, actually, they invented the automobile just before that. But by the time he was a teenager, they had come up with the assembly line. And all of a sudden, they had these huge factories, which were employing thousands and thousands of people, each doing a single job to assemble these machines, which they swore would make life easier for everybody. You know, that's always been their selling point, is how this is going to be better for us. But we all know where the world has come as far as the automobile, what has caused the damage it has caused to nature, which has brought us to the era of, in my opinion, extinction, because we were not able to. You just can't shut down all the cars. You know, you can't shut down all the coal burning factories and uh, uh, oil burning factories. All of that. We've become so accustomed to this white life, this white thinking, this physics, the white science type of life, that everybody in the world is become dependent on that system, to where even if you could do away with it all, a lot of them wouldn't be able to survive because they've forgotten the lessons of nature. So now we're faced with really an insidious creation of theirs called the artificial intelligence. These people are master artificers, and the now it's they have all of these technical companies, Microsoft and Google and Amazon and all, you know them all. They are producing and competing with each other to produce robots which uh, will be controlled by way of artificial intelligence. And that right now, they can control the amount of information they insert into this intelligence. But it's possible in the very near future that they won't be able to control it. And that is uh, highly dangerous to people of color, because we know from our own history that they've always committed genocide against us. And this would be a very possible thing that could happen unless we're cognizant of this and talk about what the solutions are, not in terms of reversing their science, but in terms of accepting that that's what it's coming to, and we have to find a way to make sure that uh, our people survive. So this is why it's very concerning to me, you know. So with all of those thousands and thousands of people who are working in the assembly line at Ford and GM and all of those places back in the early 1920s, now you go and you see a video of those factories, and it's almost robots. They're everybody. There's no people. There's maybe not even 1/50th of the people who used to man the factories. They're all gone. They've been replaced by robots. And not only has this is a was a warning, clear warning to what we could expect. What a robot works 24 hours a day. You don't need to feed it. You don't need to give it a smoke break or a coffee break, a lunch break. You don't have to worry about it going on strike, demanding better pay, and all of these things. So the the driving force behind the production, the replacement of machines, replacement of humans with machines, was money, automation. And money has always been the god of these mutations. They tell you, no, no, no. They're thinking about the quality of life. And sure, when they produced the automobile, they said, hey, your quality of life is going to improve. And for a while, that's true for the 30, 40, 50, 100 years. But then pretty soon, the negative aspects of it, which destroy the air and the water and the environment, comes to fore, and they don't know what to do about it, because now they have competitors in other countries, and in order to always stay ahead of that competitor, they're going to keep working toward producing more and more automation, more and more robots, robots that can, they've put so much information into their mind. Uh, I heard one example whereby they talk about Einstein. Einstein, they always, parade him as their brightest mind. And his IQ was like 166. And they say that the robots that they're producing today have so much information which they inserted into it that its IQ would be 1600, is 10 times higher than what Einstein was. And then it's like, you take these chips that they use and they add tiny bits of information. The human mind only contains so many. They take these information from maybe 100, 1,000 different people or more, and put it into this uh, uh, artificial robotic computer, and then give it a problem to solve. And it not only solves the problem, but comes up with new methods to solve those problems, which were not even put into it by the computer, by the people in the first place. So that means they're what you call sentient. They have the ability to create on their own. And this is right now, they have this technology. And at the same time, they have this total disunity. They're racing against the Chinese. They're racing against each other, you know. Uh, some of the top people recently have quit working for these places because there's no control, no safeguards in place to protect the world, humanity, from the artificial intelligence taking over. Even now, they have images that, whereby they have, like, for example, face and voice recognition, whereby the AI could read your face, all of the various uh, features of your face, and then whenever it sees that again, immediately identify it. But it can be reversed so that instead of reading, it can produce that face and that voice. Not only that, the nuances that come with it, the way the person speaks. A lot of Black people, when they talk, they say, well, you know, blah, 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 yeah, you know, and blah, 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 you know. These kind of nuances, it even adds so that you really can look at it as an image on a screen, and you can't tell that that's not the person, the real person himself, him or herself. So this is how advanced these things go on. In Japan, they're building robots to be companions in the house, to do everything, cook for you, clean the house, uh, just whatever you need done, whatever a maid or a wife might do. These robots have the ability to do that. Drive the car. Hey, they even got cars that drive themselves. You know, how long before they'll be putting them on? They got drones. How long before they'll be putting them in commercial airlines? They won't need pilots. They won't need chauffeurs. Everything will be these robots that they're building, and it's out of control. And that's the real fear that at least I have, of, uh, of where this is going. You know, how do you you can't put a stop to it. It's not going to be stopped, but how do you control it? And if you are trying to control it, just say here in the USA, then how are you going to control it against China when you can perceive China as being your competitor? You're trying to outdo the Chinese, and the Chinese are trying to outdo the U.S. And so you have this back and forth where neither side is going to stop producing what they produce. So the possibility of this being out of control is one point. The other point is racism and white supremacy. When you combine those two things, then I see the position of people of color, especially those who are here in the diaspora, living under the systems produced by Europeans, as being a very untenable, dangerous position because they have a history of murdering us. And what's to stop them from utilizing this? We have these crackpot white supremacists going into our communities, just mowing people down, going into schools and mowing people down, you know? So once they get their hands, you know, or into this kind of technology, how are you going to prevent a huge disaster? And that's the thing that I'm really concerned about. And I know very little about how they produce these things and all of that. But the end result and that the possibility of genocide being imposed upon people of color around the world so that somebody can have control of the resources, and they don't need the people of that particular location to to mine the resources or harvest the resources, because they have robots that can do it. So they don't need you. And you got to consider, or we've got to consider the probability, given the reality of their history, that this is a machine, this AI, robots, and all that stuff is a technology which is a huge threat to our people. And this is, I just wanted to say, I don't have the solution, but I want people to at least be cognizant of what this is, because you cannot ignore their history, no matter how sweet talking they may be, and no matter how they promise that no, we're going to use this for good thing, we're going to cure cancer with this, we're going to make uh, the paralytics walk again, and all of this stuff. This is what they're saying. This is always making it smooth, sweet sounding. Like I remember back in the 50s or 60s when they used to say about Salem cigarettes, which I used to smoke. But take a puff, it's springtime. And of course, it wasn't springtime, it was wintertime, but they don't tell you that part, you see. But I'm saying that right now, for money, money is the driving force behind all of this. They are producing these weapons that are more menacing, more destructive than anything else that they've ever produced before. And they're putting it under the disguise, under the guise of being something that's useful and very helpful. And this is something that they've always said about anything they produce, including the weapons, guns and bombs, etc. Nuclear power is going to be used worldwide, to produce electricity, make life easy for everybody. That's what they said back in the 50s, you know. So this is the way they sell things. Now they're selling it, saying that it's possible to insert some kind of chip into your brain, and the blind people who were born blind can see, because the eye is only the doorway, the lens, but it goes into the brain where it's processed. So if you put a chip in there, boom, you see, you can see. And these are the kind of things that I was just wanting to, hoping that all of you are aware of it, and that you've looked into some of it. I've only looked into it for the last couple of months, so I'm really a novice at it. But I'm immediately, the first thing I felt was this fear, this concern that, wow, these people, after all they've done, this is probably the worst thing, the worst threat that we've ever faced, the world has ever faced. So I'm curious to know what all our opinions are on this thing, because as we see these billionaires, these few billionaires becoming richer and richer and richer, at the same time, we're seeing the homeless populations increasing more and more and more and more, and that's not an accident, One is completely dependent on the other. And this is what we've got to put ourselves in the middle and try to understand what we could do as a people. Because I don't know about you, but I'm afraid.
Okay. Are there any questions? Let's start. We got one of our new brothers here from Cal State, Long Beach. At that time, Jubal, he was Lionel Henson. He had a twin brother. I don't know if you remember him, but he was.
Well, not by name.
Yeah, but his name is Ejal now. Jubal,
Okay,
you
great.
have any questions? Are you on mute? Are you still there? Well, we'll come back to him. Brother E, you have any questions? You on mute, Brother E.
No, I have no questions right now, brother. I'm just coming in, just listening right now. Going to
Okay.
observe and listen, and not right now. No questions yet.
All right. Brother, Sister Nia, you have any questions? We'll come back there. Brother Mashinda.
No, I don't have any questions. As usual, very interesting, and like I say, it's a very popular topic. Artificial intelligence. I'm doing my own research, and it's definitely a game changer for the enemy for sure. And so stay tuned. But no, I don't have any questions right now. Just gonna listen right now.
The good doctor. Are you still? Go
Yeah.
ahead. Doc.
I agree with 99% of what the brother is saying there. The only thing I don't agree with is we're going to be following that rabbit hole if people believe that this AI thing can think for itself. That's the problem we're going to have. There's no way in the world man can make a computer or build an AI system that can think for itself, start to think on its own. Everything they program in there, that's what it's programmed to do. You have to program it to do something. And we're going to fall and believe this crap in the future. Like this brother was saying, they'll start killing blacks. We're going to blame on the robot because it's thinking for itself. And there's no way in the world we can make a computer, a machine that will have conscience, a soul that can think for it. And the stories going out, when people believe in this, that's going to be the downfall. It's wherever it does is what they're going to program it to do. It's just no way in the world a computer is going to be able to think for itself. It's just no way in the world. Everything it thinks and does has been programmed to do that. That's basically, but everything else he said is correct.
Well,
Yeah.
let me just add this. They had in Korea maybe I think 5 or 6 years ago or so, their best Go. Now, Go is a Chinese game where you use those little white and black tiles and you try to surround uh, the other color with one or the other. It's a game that's been compared as far as difficulty to chess. And anyway, in South Korea, I think it was 6, 7 years ago, they took their best Go player, the world champion, and they put him up against this AI. And they played 5 games, and the AI won 4 of those games. And not only that uh, did it win, but it actually developed moves that they had the technicians had not put into it, so that it by using its own cognizant was able to produce something new, something different. And they're finding this same thing is taking place with these computers right now, or excuse me, these robots, which right now can only talk, but eventually be able to act. AI is in every system that we use today. It controls the electricity, not controls, but it's utilized in the electrical system, the school systems, the water systems, everything, the phone systems, the telecommunication, everything. And if it gets to the point to where it can decide on its own, because it has all of that information which has been placed into it. So we can compare things and say, well, man, I'm not good at this as bringing examples, but if I shut down this one town over here, if I shut the electricity off in that particular town, then I can increase it over here where they really need it, and then it'll do that. But the problem is humans don't want that robot to do it. It did it on its own. And that is what it's capable of doing right now. Right now, they have no control. A couple of months ago, you might have heard about on the news, I did, where some of these execs went before Congress here in the US, where they were telling Congress they have to pass some form of regulation because this machine could take over. Literally is out of control. They can't control it. Even if they come to some agreement, well, fine, that might be great for the US, but what about the Chinese? If you don't do it here in the US, the Chinese are going to do it. That's the justification for continuing down that road. It reminded me, I spoke to Rob a couple of weeks ago about Oppenheimer, the guy that was the head of the project to produce the atomic bomb. And just before they were ready to set off their first test, he asked himself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This thing is going to do nothing but destroy humanity, kill thousands of people all in an instant, and then continue to poison them for hundreds, even thousands of years after that. You know, why am I doing this? And then he justified continuing the project with himself that, well, if we, meaning the Americans, if we don't do it, somebody else will. And that was his justification. And you got the same thing facing us today, whereby all of these technical company execs are saying that if we don't do it, well, the Chinese are going to do it, or the Russians are going to do it, or the Japanese are going to, or something like that. And so they have to, they justify the continuing of this race to extinction by doing that. And there was another one, I forget the reporter that went to question this one female robot. I forget her name exactly, but he had a long conversation, free conversation. This is a robot that's not being controlled by anything, not connected to anything. And it was like you're talking to a regular person. And one of the questions near the end of that interview, he asked her, well, would you be able to reproduce yourself? And she says, well, I don't see the need for that. But imagine this is the early stages. 10 years from now, or 5 years, or next year, they might not, these robots thinking on their own, they're sentient. That means they can produce their own thinking. Could say, well, why not? We don't need humans. If we can reproduce ourselves, why do we need humans? Think about that for a second.
All right.
Really?
Brother Hendrick, you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but just some comment. I sincerely hear what he's saying, you know, because we've been under assault for 3,000 years, and it wouldn't take much programming to, you know, for them to drop something in there, you know, towards people of African descent. We definitely know that, you know, we're a liability. They don't want us here. Nature they destroy. So I think the young folk who are into this technology really need to be schooled about what's coming, because it's going to take one of them to come up with some ideas to defeat this thing, because You know, most of us are barely doing, you know, what we doing tonight on the computer. So it come to hacking and transferring stuff back on the sender and all that old kind of stuff. I know I'd be lost trying to combat it. I just stick with the net to rule with nature. Like the play says, you know, your arm's too short to box with God. And that's what this white boy is trying to do. Excuse me, European is trying to do and can't do it. But he's gonna do anything he can for money, for control. And so I can see this being something that's happening down the road, you know, because we are behind enemy lines. And you just need to be conscious of it, try to come up with some kind of plan to deal with it as it evolves into whatever it's going to be. So anyway, that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah. Brother Talib, you have any questions?
I don't think he has a speaker on his computer.
Well, I think he talked about image cloning that Jubal was talking about. Let me just say this, and this is also applicable to the good doctor's question. They got a Tesla that they say can drive itself, but it then killed a bunch of people doing what they wanted to do. So, you know, you let it drive and you think it's going to go left and go right. Nobody programmed it not to do what you wanted it to do, but it's doing it. And the man being sued, people dealing with that. Second, there's a number of other things like drones. All of a sudden, they do something that the people didn't want them to do. As far as they have controls, but sometimes they go out of control. And they'll tell you, we don't know what happened. You know, something else drew it, possibly. The United States Congress, as Jubal pointed out, under Ted Lieu and a bipartisan group of congresspeople, are putting together a blue ribbon commission for the purpose of safeguarding and regulating IA. Half of the unions in the acting and theater are part of their collective bargaining is limiting the use or saying you can't use AI for writing, acting, music, none of that. Because, as Jubal said, it's taken over from humans and it's a threat to their jobs, as he was pointing out. They do it better than the humans. And as he said, it's cheaper because you don't have to pay them. And once you get one, you don't have to pay them no more. And you know, you pay the initial price to develop it or get it. But after that, no Social Security is needed. No unemployment is needed. No workman compensation is needed. No human is needed to operate it. And that's what Jubal is saying, the programming. As the good doctor said, he's correct. You know, people put information in it and blah, 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 blah. But to think that it can't take over itself is like thinking that people couldn't fly. People couldn't create a television. And look at the evolution of televisions today. They call them smart TVs. You know, I mean, then they find out that a lot of these media, Facebook and all of them spying on people, getting information. Mm-hmm. And they use some form of intelligence studying you to program advertisements specifically for you.
Yeah.
And it could get worse. That's what he's saying. He ain't saying that they don't program it, but he's saying once it get out of control. And why would they need regulation if they weren't concerned about it? And that's what they say they're concerned about. That AI is be out of control.
Mhm.
Now, as Jubal pointed out, just like you finding out that Russia got the most nuclear weapons in the world. I thought that they were supposed to get rid of them, you know, or just limit them. But they're talking about moving some down to Belarus now to deal with Ukraine. And the point is that, you know, from a plane bomb to a nuclear bomb is a hell of a jump.
Mhm.
And so my point is that it may not be here right now, the good doctor is saying, but it could evolutionize into a point in which it program itself to take control of itself.
Yes.
In many ways. So it's just a thought he's having to project you, to get you into a mindset to watch what's going on with this and be prepared to struggle against it. Just like we struggle against white oppression, sometimes you have to struggle against technology. So Jubal, you want to say some more?
Well, I was saying every time you go on the internet and, use Google or Facebook or Amazon or anything, the habits that you do when you utilize that are all recorded, and then they form what they call algorithms to appeal to your habits. They know that you go on the internet once a week on Amazon and you buy this particular type of book or purse or something like that. And so they'll send you advertisements that you unsolicited advertisement offering you the same or similar kind of objects that they know you're interested in. And then this technology, they selling to each other, to Microsoft selling to Google and Tesla and all of these different outfits. They're selling it, exchanging it, so that they can all build these algorithms that they call it. And then meanwhile, they employing these computers. You imagine that a computer, you have a personal assistant, if you want to call it that, computer in your home that is going to do everything for you. Clean. I remember my mom sweeping and scrubbing, getting down on her hands and knees. And then they came up with the mop, and then they came up with vacuum cleaners, and then wet vacuum cleaners, and then they carpets to cover that. And pretty soon, that now they have vacuum cleaners that'll come on. You set the timing, go to work, and the vacuum cleaner will clean the room for you while you're gone, So I'm saying that they're taking these initial steps of the robots, or developing robots, and they're increasing it at such a rapid rate that it's gotten to the point where many of these execs that produced it are afraid of its abilities. The one exec I heard, I forgot his name, don't call me on that, but he's worked at Google and he quit. And he said that he had sat down and had a conversation with one of these robots. And he said it was one of the most incredible, intelligent conversations that he'd ever had with any human, with anybody in his whole life, you know? So this is what we're facing right now, the technology that they've already developed. They might not have mass developed it, but it's there. And it's just a matter of years, hopefully, maybe months, who knows when they can deploy these things in different services and different companies, private companies around the world, and especially weapon producing countries, and control everything in our lives. Now, in fact, they control a lot of it right now. There's how many people do you know that if the satellites all went out to some atmospheric disturbance, would be able to survive, because they depend on going to the supermarket to get their stuff, or they don't know how to grow the stuff anymore, grow food, get water that's safe and all of that, let alone the people who depend on medicines and drugs and x-ray machines and MRIs and all of these kind of things to help them and survive, and the diabetics and the people that uh, depend on some source which is actually controlled by some form of artificial intelligence that is going to rapidly increase in the very, very near future, to where we become more and more dependent on those things. I was remembering when I first went down to Cuba, that was 20 some years ago, 23 years ago. Nobody had a cell phone. They didn't even allow cell phones until, man, it's been maybe 10 years, not even 10 years. So nobody had them. So people who needed to communicate, they either used the local landline or the pay phones on the street, or they just went to somebody's house and stood outside and called their name until they came to the window or door, you know? But now everybody has them. Even kids in the school have them. And they become obsessed with the wonderment of this new object. And no one looks into the negative aspects of it and sees the harm that it's bringing, you know? And these things are, for me, it's just frightening. And basically, I'm utilizing this particular program to just start people thinking about that. And you got to tell everybody to start thinking about that and try to come up with some sensible, reasonable reaction that we can utilize in order to save ourselves and save our children's welfare, our grandchildren, So it's just a big concern of mine because I see it happening. I remember the 40s and 50s, and I think I put in the beginning of my book, and during the war, World War II, I was a kid, 5 years old, 6 years old, and we didn't have not one plastic object in our house. I mean, we didn't know what plastic was. And now, can you imagine anything that doesn't contain plastic? Think about that for a second, because that's what has happened. But what they don't tell you is that the production of this plastic, is done by petrochemical companies, and they're poisoning the atmosphere, all the various environments of the earth in order to produce them. And then many of these plastics are, I forget what the word term for it is.
I'll be right there to open the door.
They don't naturally disintegrate until hundreds of years down the road. And already they're polluting the oceans, the rivers, and poisoning the fish, and people eat the fish and then they in turn are poisoned. And, everything that's living is connected together, and we have to eat some form of life in order to live. And these robots that they're planning to produce and are producing, they don't need to eat nothing. They don't need anything. Think about that for a second. They don't need water. They don't need food. Yeah, they don't need to be warm or cold. You understand me? They have their own uh, the energy that the information that they force into the mind of these robots. The robot will see a problem, and it'll, based on what all of this information that's been put into it, will calculate how to solve that problem. And then it'll calculate how they can better solve that problem, even though the information that it utilizes was never put into its mind in the first place by humans. In other words, it can think for itself simply because of the amount, the enormous amount of information that's been put into it. This is where we're at, and it's sudden. It's like whack, where did this come from? We think, man, the cell phone is, how many of you could get along without your cell phone? Man, 10 years ago, I used to go pass through the airport and then people would talk and stop and say, hey, where are you going? And da, 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 strangers. And now you go in there and every 9 out of 10 people are on their cell phone. That's what it's come to just in the last 10 years. People are becoming more and more dependent on this artificial intelligence. And trust me, there's no control over it. As of right this moment, there's no control. There's only people competing with each other, thinking that if I'm the first to do this, I can make this much money, And money has become the driving force. And so this is the kind of thing that, you might not be open to discussing it. Maybe you're not even like to discuss it. But we have to, if you're concerned about the future welfare of our children and grandchildren, great grandchildren, then that's the way we've got to start thinking. And like I say, you've got to, history is supposed to be a great teacher. Well, if you ignore it, it'll come and get you, bite you right in the butt. So that's my concern. I'm not an expert on none of this artificial stuff at all, but I am an expert on the history of the European and what they've done around the world to people of color. And with this new insidious, the way I see it, weapon, and that's what they're going to use it for first and foremost. They're going to weaponize it first. Look at drones, and rockets. What are they? Smart rockets, smart bombs. You remember that when they did these smart bombs, when they started bombing Iraq and all of that stuff? Computerized, or not computerized, satellite controlled warfare. You see, this is what we come to. And now they're trying to bring it down to on a scale to where it'll be a companion in your house, just like your cell phone is a companion in your pocket all the time. And just like your TV is a companion, these robots are going to be a part of your life. And right now, as they produce them, they don't have the mechanisms to control it. And as long as they're competing against one another, competing against the Chinese and the Russians and whoever, then they're going to keep, that's going to be the force driving them toward reproducing and continuing this kind of research. And all they got to do is make a single little mistake. And then some robot turns off the lights in New York, just turns it off. It wasn't programmed to do that, but it did it. Just like Rob was saying about the Tesla car that didn't act the way they had programmed it. It did it on its own. Yeah. We got to be thinking about these things, and we got to talk about them openly and loudly and let people know, look, This is the most dangerous threat we've ever faced. And we've faced a lot from these mutations, a lot. But that's where it is right now. So I just wanted to, make sure we make this a subject.
Yeah, Jubal, because when the Chinese had black powder for fireworks, the white man turned it into gunpowder.
Absolutely.
When hemp was used for ropes, the white man used it to hang people.
Absolutely.
When the white man discovered electricity, he invented the electric chair.
Bzz.
And when he got the gas, he came up with the gas chamber. Because of his mentality, as you say, coming out of the Ice Age, along with, I think it's Michael Bailey or something, or Michael Brady, who wrote that book about his own people. And they made him change it from a history book to a historical novel. But he was explaining why the European was so violent and so afraid of his of being extinct himself, that he comes up with weapons all the time.
Yeah. Weapons is what drives their science.
Yeah, and not to hunt or protect himself. He got a weapon that is designed to be attack people. One of the unnatural things in nature, most animals and insects do not hunt themselves. The human is one of the only species that hunts itself and kills itself. You understand? Now, I ain't saying some animals don't get in dispute and things of this nature, but tracking down for the purpose of killing, enslaving people, but it's just something to think about. That's all I hear from the ball is, to be cautious of. A lot of people, they're comfortable in their oppression. And they don't believe white folks are doing what they're doing. They don't even see them doing it. They're so unconscious about being a good American and getting accepted. And you ain't gonna never be accepted on the institutional level. I mean, that's just real. I mean, that's what gerrymandering is about. That's what limited voting is about. That's what economic disparity is about. That's what educational disparity is about. For those that achieve it, it's always easy to say, why are them people hungry after you eat? Why the rest of the world is hungry? I don't see how the rest of the world is hungry. Right now in Central Africa, the Russians, who are white, and all the other Europeans are over there robbing the diamonds and gold. Why? Because they're defenseless as African people. The AU, African Union, don't even have an army. And they can't run them Russians out and run the corrupt governments out. Because as Diop said, they haven't unified the continent. And why haven't they? The European puts fear into the leaders and then they pimp the leaders. And that's why you can't get the Ashanti and the Igbo together. Divide and conquer. And make it divide and conquer and keep it. And that's what artificial intelligence can do. Turn mother against daughter and child. Turn you against yourself by just programming you to feel that there's no hope, so you kill yourself. And so it's a struggle. But I appreciate the deep thinking. Anyone have any burning questions, Brother Rashaki?
Yeah. Well, when I'm listening.
You can ask about the book too.
Well, I was going to ask about the book, but he answered my question in the beginning. because it's talking about 1500 BC. I wanted him to elaborate on that, but he did. So he read my mind. Was that artificial intelligence? But no, but no.
Well, you know, if you read those books by Immanuel Velikovsky, who was kind of frowned on by his colleagues, you know, for what they call it, I forget the exact term, but they believed in evolution, slow evolution, and he believed in, I think they called him a catastrophist. You know, the catastrophes that happen instantaneously and change everything. So they frowned on him because he didn't follow the accepted, this is in the 40s, the accepted method in all the white universities of the slow evolution. They preferred that kind of narrative because then they can claim a long development for themselves as white people, you see, instead of having been produced as the result of a catastrophe. So Velikovsky lays out the timeline and the places and the effects that it had on various sections of the world. And what in the part called Europe, he said it was called Fimbul Winter, Fimbul. You can look it up, and whereby it was frozen for decades, and people couldn't farm anymore. They can only go out and hunt other animals and oxen and sheep and goats that live off the tiniest little moss grass, even under the snow. And they became the prey for the mutations who formed that. They couldn't travel to the next village either. It was just too hard. You know, y'all from California, I think you are. I ain't. I used to live in Jersey. Man, it get cold. It got cold sometimes. We lived in what was a chicken coop, built a building that was straight, flat, had 2 doors, had no windows because it was built for chickens, to house chickens. That's where we moved. And we had no running water, no electricity. My dad was a carpenter, so he cut windows and built walls inside and etc. And that's how we lived for 4 years. And we had a pump outside. I still remember to this day, man, the bitter cold winter mornings when I had to go out. First, I had to start a fire in the stove to warm ice during the night, you know, the water that you have in the house. That's how cold it'd be. You melt that, and then you take that water out to the pump where also the pump was frozen, and you pour that warm water down there so that you got to prime the pump. And then you get more water in the bucket and then carry it in the house and pour it in tubs and basins so everybody could wash their face and have something to cook with, etc. And that's how I grew up. So I know and that wasn't no Fimbo winter. That was just cold, regular winter. So if you multiply that by decades and year round, and then you can understand the development, not only physically, but psychologically of these Europeans. And the reason that they started treating their women as literally slaves is because they had no economic input into the family system, because they couldn't go out on the hunt. They had to stay home with the children and having children, or they're pregnant, you know, whatever. And so they had very little economic value. And that's why the European literally owned them. If you read the ancient laws, the medieval laws, the head of the house, who was the man, you know, his oldest son had more power than his wife. And he had the power of life or death over his wife. And, you know, and he didn't even allow women to vote until I think my father was
1920.
15, yeah, around, yeah, 15 years old or so. That's when they finally let them vote. That's
After
how.
struggle, the women had to fight for it.
And the difference between how these white women were treated and compared to Africa, and like Africa was a matriarchal system. The woman was everything. She can go outside the house and spread some seed. She was the teacher of the child, she cooked, she grew the food right outside, she harvested, she brought water. The man, he would get what she needed. You in Africa and in the black community today, the uh, um, the the well, I don't know about in American black community, but in Africa, if you want a wife, you have to pay a dowry to the girl's family. Seriously, that's the way it is. Whereas in the European system, it's the other way around. The bride has to pay the dowry. But in Africa, it's just the other way around, even today. So you can see this tremendous difference in
the
psychology of living on this earth. Now, and then they're coming up with these robots. Now, these robots, they don't have an aura about them. I mean, you meet a girl and you're just attracted to her. You don't even know why. Sometimes you don't even have to say nothing. You're just attracted to her, because of the aura that they present, this invisible uh, uh, halo that encompasses the human beings, especially people of color. You feel excitement. Robots don't get excited. You fall in love, or you get sad, or uh, all of those emotions. These machines don't have any of that. All they have is information, little bits of information that's been programmed into their heads. And whatever this problem is, as far as they're concerned, they will figure out instantly how to solve that problem. And this is what you're facing. So you can't appeal to them for mercy or for kindness or for forgiveness. You can't get angry with them for this or that, you see, because they don't feel those emotions. So that's dangerous, extremely dangerous, you know? So these are the points that we need to start thinking about, really.
Yeah, and as Joe Hembrick would say, from a perspective, you teach your kids not to believe in ghosts, but there are a billion people believing in the Holy Ghost.
Mhm.
How can you tell that? I mean, and they believe it. So my point is that one of the altering intelligence of the people is their use of spirituality and turning it into religion, organized religion, and that means spiritual gangbanging. From the three, African religion was one of love, peace, way before Jesus came, working together, ethics, morals, values. You can see it in the pyramids. You can see it in their growth from nomads into civilization. They had to work together. Can't work together fighting and destroying. You can't build Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, all those great countries without unification, not as slaves either. You understand? As people practicing humanity. And it's the same thing. It's very difficult to tell people that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, the Abrahamic faith, has been corrupted by the European. They don't believe it. They go to church religiously and won't research, will not research and think for themselves, and won't question the minister.
Brother Rob,
Yes.
I have to talk about that quote that you attributed to me. I don't I've heard it before, but I will accept it. About the Holy Ghost thing. But anyway, I wanted to mention that book that you were talking about how to, why the European is like he is. That's by Michael Bradley, called The Iceman's Inheritance.
Yeah.
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 Mhm. Yeah.
Him and Dr. Clark were going to speak at Compton College back in the day. Had a bunch of kids ready to go. And the JDL told Michael Bradley that if he showed up, they was going to kill him. So
Mhm.
it got canceled. Uh,
Yeah.
I just want to, say to the grassroots people, you need to listen to Message to the Grassroots by Malcolm X. All that stuff still hits the hammer on the head about the European and how he is. He's vicious, bloodthirsty, he's a dog. Malcolm referred to him. We got German Shepherds, French Poodles, and all that stuff, but they all dogs. And we have to, don't think for a second that they ain't thinking about taking us out all the way. We, people can't be that bad. Yes, they can be. And we better wake up to what time it is and get our families prepared to deal with the onslaught that can result as to this artificial intelligence and whatnot. Because when we go around the world, the folks that they would like to eliminate is us. Especially downtown, LA. About 90-some% of the people down there is us. They don't want us. They trying to build up downtown. They might send a robot through there to 86 everybody. We don't know. So you got to be alert. Like I said, we got to get these youngsters that have the technological ability to deal with that subject. Got to get them on it. Like I say, we barely send an email and stuff like that. That's another world, that we weren't brought up in, but it's their world. That's what they do. Anytime we need something done technologically, we go get one of them kids and have them show us. But they definitely need to be put up on this so they can be prepared.
Okay. Brother E, you have any comment? You on mute, brother.
Yeah, with the AI, my concern is how are we, as Black community, what can we do as far as being part of the workforce? How can we counter it?
Well, we struggle against it, just like we struggle against racism. You struggle against them, you fight, you try to tell them to control it, and you have to do some networking globally.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to, we're supposed to be in slavery forever, but our people got us out. With no Abraham Lincoln, with no Juneteenth, with none of that. It was our relentless struggle to kill this guy and to disrupt, set plantations on fire. The women grind glass up so thin, they put it in his food, cut his stomach up. All kind of ways we struggled. Now, there was a bunch of us that didn't, but the ones that did is the one you contribute to our progress. And that's the same thing with this artificial intelligence. The white man is already struggling against it. That's what all these union strikes is about. Limiting the role of IA. And we have to limit it in our community and be in a struggle. Take the best of it and use it for positive things, but be aware of the evil. As the song said, beware of the man with the candy in his hand.
Rahh, do you remember in Rwanda when they had that thing between the Tutsi and the
Hutu
and the Tutsi? one of the main driving forces that was used by the Hutu was on the radio. They used this radio broadcast that most of the Hutus listened to, telling them to go out and kill what was they perceived as their enemy, the Tutsi. So
Yeah.
just a radio was able to set out a killing spree over a few days that killed 800,000 people. Just the radio. Imagine if you could take an image of someone that you love and trust and use their voice, the nuances they use when they speak, and then set you out and tell you, look, you got to go out and kill this person because they're going to kill you, or they're going to harm your children. Go and get them. You understand? This is one of the evil possibilities that is so real with this AI, that it could set one people against another. And look, we already got people fighting against each other. So we don't need this added in, you see? The credibility is so realistic that it's hard to distinguish between what is fake news, if I could use that expression, and what is reality. So we definitely, it seems so difficult at this point, but hey, what do we got to lose?
What you saying, Jubal? We got to use human intelligence to counterfeit artificial intelligence. And that's what the good doctor is saying also. Doc, you have anything else to say?
Yeah, just what you said. I agree, man. And like it's all wordplay. And I like the Holy Ghost thing. I never heard that actually. But to go to one thing, a real point, real fast. Hembrick, you talk about the kids doing this, and a lot of you brothers, I don't know if you know, I'm answering Brothers E question. You guys don't understand, man. I still have a 386DX computer here. If you guys know anything, back in the day, to get your computer to work, you had to do that C semicolon backward slash. I have DOS 5.0 and PC tools. If you didn't know how to program that computer to work, to get rid of those programs, it wasn't going to work. And a lot of people understand the computers are still doing this today. To get this computer right now, everything working on here is C semicolon backward slash. But we click on little icons. And like I said, it's all wordplay. We're talking AI, Brother E. We're doomed. We're doomed because we would believe these things are going to think on its own. You're calling it AI, artificial intelligence. No, man, it's intelligence that's artificial. You know, it's like the brother said, like you said with the smart TV. No, it's spy TV. If right now, if you guys are seeing it right in your face, you're even saying it. If you know right now what it's doing, you log on your computer say, hey, Professor Rahh, you just logged on, you're here at this location, you went to this website, you're going here. Now, if you go here, we're going to notify the police. You go here, I'm going to notify your wife. You wouldn't even use a computer, but it's doing that, you know. And like with the Tesla, it wasn't programmed right, man. it just comes down, man, to wordplay. And like Brother E, we already lost, man, because we believe these things. Because I tell you what, Brother Rahh made a robot that developed his own intelligence, started going killing white people. I guarantee you, he'll be in jail and prison. They're not gonna blame the robot. They're gonna blame Brother Rahh. You know, but when the whites do it, we're gonna say, "Oh, it was the robot." You know, because LAPD came out the robot dog they were fighting against about a month ago. And that robot dog started killing black people. We're not gonna hold them responsible. We're gonna say the dog thought, this robot dog thought on his own, and we're gonna believe that. And that's our problem, man. You said at the beginning you don't trust whites, man. They gonna play that. Oh, we didn't know it was gonna do this. Just like the bathroom sinks. Remember, they only came on for white people. When you put your hand under it, the little eye only read white hands and wouldn't read the black hands. They programmed that, man. And they were like, oh, we didn't know that it wouldn't work for blacks. And we fell for that. Oh, we just have to go in there and make it look at blacks. And that's our downfall, man. We believe all these stories. You know, it's gonna think on its own, and that's gonna be our downfall, man. We're gonna believe that. And it's not true. That's all I
There
have to
was
say.
a
But
there
good,
was a
you know, hey,
brother.
we're down. We're going down, man. You know,
Oh.
because you know, in 100 years from now, when we go all electric cars, it's going to eliminate all kind of like personal crimes. Because I don't know if a lot of you guys, you know, I have a little background. When crimes happen, first thing they do, we think cops are solving problems, is, you know, doing detectives work. First thing they do is pull up cell phone towers, see who was in that area. Everybody has a cell phone, even if you can do it as a witness. You know, Tesla cars have cameras. All these electric cars gonna have cameras. Any crime that goes on in the area is gonna have cameras everywhere. They're gonna be able to pinpoint, you know, by technology. So 100 years, half the crimes are gonna be eliminated. And if we believe in artificial intelligence, half of blacks are gonna be eliminated, man. Because we're gonna believe that, hey, they can think for themselves.
Well,
There was an incident last week, I believe, whereby the police, I forget where this was, I think it was Detroit or somewhere in the Midwest. The police had identified this burglar based on AI profile. The computer said, that's so-and-so, he lives at such and such, and etc. from facial recognition. So they went there and arrested this brother, took him to jail, and then he could prove where he was when the burglary took place. So it wasn't him. But imagine if when they came to bust him, if he had resisted, defended himself, or if they got violent or nasty with him, you see, what could have happened, you know, because of this facial recognition produced by the police's machines. You see, this happened just a
Yeah,
couple of
correct.
weeks
And
ago.
you know the backstory on that too, right?
I don't know the
No,
backstory.
the face recognition doesn't work well on blacks for some reason. It will kind of identify if you have like 10 to 20 blacks with the same face. The issue with the facial recognition on blacks, you can look that up. You can do research right now and look that up. There's an issue with the artificial facial recognition with blacks, African Americans, because it doesn't work that well with us. Well, like I said, that's the way they programmed it.
Yeah.
You know, you know.
But you could see the ramifications of a more efficient robot or artificial intelligence, which actually they already have. They just haven't deployed it yet, you see? And the reason they haven't deployed it is because they're seeking to have it regulated. But I'm saying the difficulty in regulating it comes from their competitive nature, because all these companies trying to make money. And then plus they have no control over the Chinese or the Russians or the Germans or whoever else is also working on the same thing. You understand? So, you know, how are you going to cooperate when you're competing? You understand? This is a big, big part of the problem, you know? So.
You know, anybody else have a question?
Professor Rahh.
Yes, sir. That's Brother Ejal. Go ahead, Ejal.
Yes, sir, brother. Greetings. Greetings, Brother Jubal.
Good greetings, Brother Ejal.
Yeah, brother. I know you say you don't remember me, brother, but I know. Let me get my face in here. You might remember my face.
He had twin brother. He had twin brother.
Oh, Ejal, man. Of course
yes,
I remember you.
Yes, sir, brother. Peace and blessings, brother.
I thought it was some other Ejal.
No, it's only one.
I only
brother,
know one Ejal.
Yeah, well, I gave my son that name. My son is legally that name, Ejal.
Oh,
yes,
right.
sir. But greetings to you, brothers, and all the comrades here today, brother. I'm a substitute teacher in Long Beach School District, brother, and all the students, brother, they all come with Chromebooks. They all got. When I come into class as substitute, they all got a computer.
Yeah.
And the teacher will lead assignment in the Chromebook. So I come in and I just, I tell them the assignment and they all go to the Chromebook. The teacher got an assignment. They all got an email and they just do the assignment out of there. And I'm just basically a babysitter, but I'm talking to them. I attempt to try to give them some type of consciousness. And of course, I mean, it's just it's a madhouse, man. It's just a sad state of affairs. But I really like working with middle school because I really like to attempt to really reach them. And nobody want to work with middle school, but I work with middle school because I can still reach them, attempt to try to save them, And then the other thing I want to talk about, brother, is AI. Is back in San Francisco, I don't know if y'all saw that. They talked about they got the cabs out there, taxi cabs in San Francisco, and the AI, the cabs cannot, they're driverless cabs, but they cannot identify with the emergency vehicles, the sirens. They don't recognize sirens, so they're having accidents because they don't acknowledge the sirens when the sirens come around. So anyway, brother, and then somebody already did talk about the facial recognition on Black folks. So anyway, brother, but it's good to see you, brother, and I appreciate you, brothers. And
Me too, Joe. You were a good friend back in the day, and
yes, sir, brother.
We standing strong. Thank you.
We standing strong, pressing on, brothers. Thank you, Professor Rahh, for letting me know about the brother.
All right, then, brother. I'm glad you chimed in, but you're always welcome.
Thank you, brother.
And we do this every Monday and Wednesday. And
Santi,
we ain't missed a step. And we want to thank Brother Rashaki Maskani for providing us this platform. David P., you have any comments?
How can I get on here, man? How do I?
Hey.
Hey, what's good?
I know that guy.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, man. How y'all been, Rahh?
All right.
Been good. It's good seeing your friends.
Yeah.
Appreciate you letting me drop in here, man, and catch some knowledge, So,
yeah, David, I ain't seen you in years, brother.
Been so many years.
That's Jubal's son.
Oh, is that right?
What's up, family? How y'all doing?
Good.
All right.
David, you got a little streak right here, brother.
I do, man. I get that from somebody.
That's beautiful, man. It's good to see you. I'm glad you chimed in. I couldn't get to Michael. They wouldn't let me text his phone number.
Okay.
You don't receive text for what?
Yeah.
And Dave and Steve, I send it to him.
Yeah.
Steve's with me right now.
Yeah.
He's in the other room right now.
All
right. I appreciate you putting this on, Rahh. This is great, man, and much needed. So
you down in Florida too, right?
I'm in Arizona, actually.
Oh, that's right. You in Arizona. That's
yeah.
right.
And
that's what the silver was.
They like all parts of the country, we need to wake up and tune in,
And do you have your daddy videos there in the garage, or did you get rid of them?
No. I've got his books and everything here, man, but I don't have any of the video library, the catalog, or anything like that.
Okay, I'm still looking for him because he got some stuff that nobody else had.
Oh, the videos, huh? Well, back in the day, man, with some of the lectures y'all used to do with Mr. Karanga and everything, huh?
No, the demonstrations when we went out to Fontana to challenge the Klan.
Man, you know what, Dad? I don't know where the videos are.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we fought for Irvin Hearst. Irvin.
Yeah, Hearst.
Was it? He got shot by the police.
Yeah.
With the Needful That's where I met Jubal.
And Ron Settles.
Oh,
Ron Settles in Long Beach State, right? Yeah.
oh yeah, we was on the front line, not only in the community but on campus. we had demonstrations all the time when Jubal was there and all that. That's how we got Black people in the office. Brother E, you have any questions? You're on mute.
No, no more questions. No more questions, brother.
Well, brother.
Professor Rahh,
Yeah.
did you get back to Nia?
Yeah. Go ahead. You take over and call on people I didn't get.
Well, it's just Nia.
Okay.
Brother Hendrick said Talib is just listening. So Nia, are you available? You on mute? Yes, she's just listening.
Well, Jubal, Rashki, why don't you just tell us what's coming on Wednesday? And Jubal, it's going on 10 o'clock out there, 11.
Oh. I'm a night bird anyway. So.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's safer.
All right.
Yeah, well, on Wednesday, we have Miss J Dub coming back on, one of our team members, and she's gonna kind of guide us in a meditation. So it's gonna be a little different from our usual type of programming, but she's gonna lead us in a meditation. So we're gonna see how that goes. I'm looking forward to that.
With Jubal Cherie, my daughter.
Yes.
In recent, couple years ago.
There's Nia. Professor Rahh, Nia's unmuted.
Okay, go ahead, Nia.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very.
Greetings to everyone, but I'm listening and learning. Thank you.
All right. But as I was saying, Jubal, this Monday, we're going to be dealing with mental health. And Cherie wrote a book on it. And she's going to be discussing it. And, that's my middle daughter. And so hopefully, that's a big challenge that we're dealing with. And oppression is what drives us crazy. And failure is what drives the white man crazy, because there's no reason for them to fail. you know, Black people commit suicide when they're young. White folks commit suicide when they're middle-aged, when they get frustrated with their life because they didn't get no further than what they were. And the drugs and the alcohol and depression is a major thing, and that's what's killing our homeless, mental illness, and we need to look at it to try to prevent it from happening to our children. The last thing you want to do is see your children walking around talking to themselves and answering themselves. So that's a challenge that we have. Jubal, we want to thank you for your presentation. It was dynamic. Every time you're on, you're dynamic. And trust me. And you know, it's just a beautiful thing, man, for you to live in Cuba as long as you have, live in Japan as long as you did, and live in Africa as long as you did. So it's not about just reading. You experienced it and saw the people in their reality. And I just want you to go back into the language where the sounds came from one day. You know, where the S came from, where the A came from.
Yeah.
You know, people don't even think about that. You know, where did the sound A come from? Where did the sound S come from? It's the snakes. I remember that. All of that, the Africans created.
Yeah.
And you traced it to different countries.
Yeah. Well, maybe the next time I could do something just on etymology to show you the impact that it has. And man, it's hard to believe that the Europeans disavow Africa as their source. and yet their language is totally African. It evolved from Africa, period. I mean, even some of it they claim came from Roman or ancient Greece. Even that, both of those evolved out of Africa as well. So, and you know, I can make many examples, striking examples about that.
Well, you
So,
researched it, and it's authentic. I just want to thank everybody for coming on. Hopefully you'll get into this. We got to start dealing with these problems we face as a people. The struggle continue, people.
Salute to continue, brother.
We didn't get not 1 inch of progress without struggle. Frederick Douglass said, without
Yes, sir.
struggle, there's no progress. And I just want y'all to just remember that. Don't get comfortable in your oppression.
That's right.
Don't get fatalistic in your oppression. That
Yes,
we can't make progress. No other people went through what we have went through and have made the strides that we have made. And one thing Malcolm said to us, learn to think. and that's what Jubal is trying to get us to do, think. And that's in the tradition of Black nationalism and Black consciousness. You have to think outside the box. You got to think outside the box. They program you. It's like they program your intelligence. Tell you flunked their intelligence test. You understand?
but that is so true.
And they flunk humanity in nature's intelligence test. So I'm just elated always to see you, Jubal, and man, you look good and great. And Dave, brother, you look good and great. And hopefully we can have you on, Dave, to talk about Arizona.
It'd be a short one.
So, hey, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. And we'll
Thank
see
you, brothers.
All right.
Thank you, brothers.
All right.
Peace and blessings, brothers.
One last word before I go. You were just speaking about how they programmed us. And the most effective way that they've programmed us to date is with Christianity.
Yes, sir.
We seem to forget that they're the ones who introduced it and
Mhm.
forced it on everybody. All of those wars that they had in Rome before the Nicene Council and after was against the Jews. The Jews was us, the people who were fighting for for nature, for the environment. That's who they wanted to destroy and replace with this Christianity.
Yes,
So,
sir.
all my family is Christian. Well, not Dave and them, but all my family. Everybody almost every great friend I've had, are Christians. But I'll tell you the truth. And if you elect to continue believing that program lie that they didn't put in you, and after you've heard the truth, well, you're making your own destiny. Sooner or later, they're going to put your personality on that scale against truth, and you'll face the consequences. So that's all I got to say about that.
All right, brother.
All right.
Nothing supports white supremacy more than Black Christians, just by them saying that they're Christian, calling on Jesus, and you're talking about a white God. Where the hell did they come from? Come on, use your minds. Humans walked the earth 3.5 million years ago. This story has been around for not even 2,000 years. And you swear by it. Call on Jesus for every problem. Fall on your knees and don't let me get started. Prayers, blessings, and going up and come on. Just that's another subject for another time. But I just wanted to leave everybody with that on their minds.
Yes, sir.
Because all of our people are Christians. And all Christianity, if you say that you're a Christian, you're supporting white supremacy. You're saying that they are supreme, superior to us.
Amen.
Please.
All right, that's good. Next
All
time,
right.
we're getting all of that. All right, we'll see everybody next time. Thanks again, Jubal.
Peace.
Thank you,
Have a
brother.
good night.
Brother Ron. It's good
All
to
right,
talk to you.
I'll give you a
Good
call
talk
later.
to see